Hello, everybody. Josh Brown here, back for another great episode on Franchise Euphoria. Well, today's episode is brought to you by IndieFranchiseLaw.com, a leading resource in the franchise space to help you if you're considering buying a franchise, turning your business into a franchise, or growing your business through a licensing or franchise structure. So go on, check it out, IndieFranchiseLaw.com. I think you'll find a lot of valuable and free information as you continue to kind of weigh franchising and licensing and the growth of your business. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy today's episode. On today's episode of Franchise Euphoria, I'm thrilled to have Mark Stubler, who is the founder of Joe Homebuyer Franchise, which is a turnkey real estate investing business that helps homeowners sell their properties quickly without the hassle of traditional listings. Mark and I have a really interesting conversation about his background, how he got into franchising, the whole concept behind the Joe Homebuyer Franchise, and how he's focused on trying to provide continually and adding an added value for franchisees with his franchise system. He just franchised about a year ago, so he's a good example of an emerging franchisor. And we have good discussion on some things that he's been dealing with as part of the growth of the Joe Homebuyer Franchise. So I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did with Mark Stubler. Hello, Mark. Welcome to Franchise Euphoria. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you, Josh.
Good to have you on. So you're the founder of Joe Homebuyer Franchise, which we're going to talk all about today. But before we do, I always like to have my guests kind of share a little bit of their background and how they got into this crazy, wacky world of franchising.
Definitely. Thank you again for your interest and question there. I may be the only guy that will answer the question this way, but I come from the world of fencing and decking. So no association whatsoever with real estate, but in the sales world, fencing and decking, selling vinyl fencing and decking products. A lot of experience working with families, just putting together projects for their home and yards. Nothing to do with, enhancing a home from a, rehab perspective or investment perspective, but just a lot of experience meeting with families and homeowners. And I worked for a great company. And so I made lots of, what I thought at the time was, really good money for a commission sales position. And
Sure.
It was good. It challenged me.
So is that happening where you just, working on, you're there, you're walking around people's homes, you're telling them about this deck and this fence and so forth. And you're just thinking to yourself, boy, I could get into real estate from a different perspective. Or how did this idea come about for Joe Homebuyer Franchise?
I love it. The funniest thing is it was golden handcuffs because I was making good money right out of high school, basically, just as a sales guy. I was making six figures. I had some good things going for me. No complaints, really strong company that I was with. But they gave me a gift that I think you'll appreciate, Josh. And that was they took away some of my autonomy. And that's enough to make me think outside the box. They gave me the gift of saying, hey, you need to come in once a week and play inside sales guy. And I was used to being out in the field, meeting with that, basically coming and going as I please, almost just had to report once a week on a Tuesday morning meeting. Aside from that, I was just free as a bird. And then they said, hey, to cut down on expenses, we're going to have you come in and play inside sales guy, sharpen pencils is what I called it during the week. And, one day a week. And it was the gift that pushed me over the edge to say, I'm actually not doing my own thing. I'm not free to make my own decisions, and I'm not building something for myself.
So how'd you come up with the concept? I mean, what made you think of this concept?
Well, I was able to get into the world of wholesaling and rehabbing about 5 years ago. And I actually came across through a mentor. I was able to pay for a mentor that specialized in real estate wholesaling. And, for those of you listening, that's just the idea of selling the contract. So you put a house under contract and you sell the contract to an end buyer and you make a fee. And, those fees can range from $5,000 to $25,000 and more per transaction. So I was fortunate to get going, making money, being profitable, and was able to transition very quickly out of the fencing world. And we realized we had something special. Not only were we successfully navigating real estate, but we were thriving in our spaces. And in the couple markets that we chose, we were getting uncharacteristically good results. Our marketing efforts were unique and aggressive. And we were finding that a lot of people around us were actually saying, how are you doing this? So we took the concept from a mentor, and we were able to really add our own spin on it and create a really special business model that became almost an art of finding deeply discounted properties and being good at it. So it started 5 years ago, just doing it ourselves and realizing, hey, we can actually create a business model. And that's where Joe Homebuyer came along, is the opportunity to now provide a turnkey business model that somebody else can tie into and plug right into a system that takes away some of the guesswork and obviously provides additional support.
Yeah, so the idea being that for a franchisee, they're gonna come in and they're gonna get a territory or an opportunity or an area
Certainly.
where they can go and buy houses and essentially, invest some in them, fix them up, and then flip them, or do a whole variety of things right on the real estate side. I mean, is that essentially what it is?
It is. And really, in our space, that's the great thing. Real estate, I mean, it just affords so much opportunity. And I feel grateful to be in this space, this market, in the sense that the margins can just be fantastic. Those of you, obviously, that are listening to this podcast, you get that. I mean, you've done a few deals or several deals or whatever. Real estate is just a special industry. Josh, you can appreciate that. This idea that you can do a few deals and it can really change the trajectory of your finances on just a little bit of success.
Well, it's interesting because I know a lot of so, myself, I'm a franchise lawyer, and I know other lawyers and other really, I mean, I know several lawyers and other professionals who, started out doing some of that on the side, buying, renovating, flipping,
Yeah,
and then they
sure.
turned it into their full-time profession because it did, quite frankly, if you do it well and you build up enough of a portfolio, you can really do all right and have a lot of free time as well. I mean, you have to
Certainly.
obviously deal with obviously this may be a little bit different from what you guys are doing, but if you're building them up and then you're leasing them out versus are you guys just building them up and then just flipping them?
All of the above. We focus on all the exit strategies. So we've over the years we started out just wholesaling, so we could bring in immediate revenue, selling the contract for to an end buyer, which we refer to as our cash buyers or our pool buyers. And yeah, we were able to get in a place, Josh, where we had some cash, and then it opened up the door to additional exit strategies, which include light rehabs, and really we didn't deviate from that. Took down the rentals that proposed themselves as being good investments. And with the market as good as it is, it's hard to keep a rental because we have people paying so much for the properties that we locate or that we put under contract that we're not probably keeping as much as we could, but we're just getting these crazy offers. And so it's just been an area where we've been able to over time progress into the different life cycles of an investor, starting with building revenue and then adding the others. And even now we do more major rehabs, but it's been several years in the business. You mentioned the passive income. That's what ultimately a lot of us get into real estate for. Is hey, I want to have these multifamily properties. I want to build wealth and I want to build these assets over time, but I also want to have income coming in so that I can not work as hard. And that's exactly what real estate affords you. And with the Joe Homebuyer system, it's not just tapping into the system that we've created. It's taking your creative genius and bringing your talents. And some people are going to focus entirely on rehabs because they have construction background. Others are going to focus on just wholesaling because they don't want the risk of buying the property. But the real value we bring is how do you get the phone to ring? How do you get these distressed sellers to call and say, hey, I could really benefit from a cash offer. Would you come out and make me an offer? And that's an area of strength for us. And versus there's lots of gurus, there's lots of coaches, there's lots of seminars you can attend. And I trust actually a lot of those provide a tremendous amount of value because I know a lot of them and they do. And we take that, but it's ongoing support. It's ongoing. How do I now scale my business? And it's the hand holding of sorts. That's what you get in a franchise. It's not just the how to's, it's the ongoing support and implementation that you get a lot of value with the Joe Homebuyer offering through our franchise. But so we feel fortunate just to be in the real estate space because all of those opportunities that we've talked about here just provide, a great avenue for making a lot of money and setting yourself up financially.
So how are you differentiating yourself from some of your competitors out there who are doing the same thing?
That's such a great question. And a lot of it's just the personal touch. I mean, in my mind, a competitor is a coach or a guru or a seminar because really there's not a lot of franchise options out there. You don't have a brand that you can hang your hat on. There's just not a lot of that. A lot of it's, hey, this is a how to, the YouTube video, the
Well,
training.
there's the like the what we buy ugly houses or the home investors or whatever. I mean, is that a competitor of yours?
Very much. But that's almost exclusively the only other franchise offering out there
Yeah.
is We Buy Houses. And now you have Joe Homebuyer. And we think we're unique. The way that we market is different than home investors, but they've been around forever. And that is a very viable competitor. Generally speaking, when the two are held up on the scale, so to speak, in comparison, we've been pretty fortunate to have a lot of good business owners attracted to what we offer because there are some noticeable differences. And that's what you asked. What are those differences? Well, one of them is, how are your marketing dollars being spent? And what are those techniques? Is it just mass marketing, billboards and radio and things like that? And also the targeted. And we focus on both, but we understand that we need to give the power to the franchisee so that their dollars being spent go all into their results. And without getting into the minutia of it, this idea that you can yield the fruits of all your marketing efforts, and it's not necessarily being managed by the father company or the mothership. We give you the power back, but we help hold your hand, implement, create the strategy, put ongoing implementation to it, and then obviously everything that goes into it. One of the things that's oftentimes forgotten, and one of the biggest distinguishing factors is, yes, you have a house under contract, but what are you going to do with it now? And that's another area of immediate strength for us, and I believe stands up well in comparison, is finding the best exit strategy to drive revenue, whether it's selling it to a cash buyer, helping you understand the best options to rehab it. We're definitely going to provide the necessary support and structure so that you can maximize revenue. And that's what this is about, is what's going to drive profits. And we provide a lot of support on the disposition side and the exit strategies.
So tell me, if you're talking to a prospective franchisee and you're figuring out a territory, wherever they are. I mean, are you offering this across the US at this point?
All across the US. That's right.
All across the USA. So if you're doing it, what are you looking for in a franchisee? I mean, what kind of characteristics are you looking for somebody to come take part in the system? And tell me what it entails. I mean, to me, it sounds like this is, one that could be operated from your home. There's not really a retail brick and mortar component to it.
That's right.
Do you have employees? Do you have independent contractors? Or is this really, an owner coming in, buying in, and then being the sales team, essentially? And then perhaps if they have success and grow into other territories, then building up a sales team to come take their place. Is that what it is, or am I missing something?
No, I love it. So great question. The type of franchisee, the ideal franchisee, is somebody that either has business experience or sales experience. Meaning, we've had both franchisees find success. The guy that comes in and says, "Look, I'm not necessarily going to be the guy that goes in and meets with the families and negotiates a contract, but I know how to run a business. I'm going to tap into this, and I'm going to hire a sales guy, and I'm going to go out and he's going to light the world on fire." Somebody that wants to oversee the business, but not necessarily be in the trenches every day, meeting with sellers, negotiating price, that type of thing. And then certainly the franchisee that wants to learn the industry, get knee deep in the sales aspect of it. And obviously you don't have to be Zig Ziglar or anything like that to succeed. But the idea that the more comfortable you are meeting with families, providing real value, listening, it's all cliche type stuff. It's building solid relationships. And these families just need to know that they can work with somebody that they trust. And if you feel like you can be a good listener and provide creative real estate solutions, and that you're genuinely interested in providing value, that's what I mean by a quality sales individual. Somebody that represents those type of characteristics, they're going to thrive. But you're right. You don't have to have brick and mortar. You don't have to have a ton of overhead. That's the crazy thing about this, is the margins are really healthy in real estate, all while you don't have to have a ton of overhead. You don't have to have a ton of expenses, fixed expenses that are driving, or sucking your profits. So very much this opportunity is available to the solopreneur that just wants to get out there and gradually build a team, starting with just themselves. My first year, a business partner and I, we had a team of 4, and we just had a fantastic year. We did, over 50 transactions our first year, 4 or 5 years ago now. And there really was just a virtual assistant doing some of the clerical stuff and admin, and we had somebody answering the phones for us, and we were able to knock it out of the park. And I share that with you to say that that's the same opportunity we're really trying to offer, the newest business owners. Come with either business experience, come with just ambition and grit, or come with, a willingness to be a good sales guy and listen and provide real solutions to sellers. You can start a business either, right out the gate, you can add a couple employees, or most are going to scale over time when they've got revenue coming in. And that's what's nice about this business model, is you don't have to be a contractor and have a successful flip and take on all the risk. You can, as you know, Josh, you can assign a contract, make real profits in a very reasonable amount of time. And that allows you to pour more back into marketing and to start to build a business without a tremendous amount of overhead, time, cost, and unnecessary risk.
So tell me, after somebody comes into the system and they learn some of the tricks of the trade, some of the things that you've done, over the years, what's the ongoing value for this franchise? And I ask that because it's a very important question for franchisees. When they come into a system, we know that there's intrinsic value in learning a system from the get-go. This is how it works. These are some of the things we do different. But oftentimes in franchising, you'll hear people who'll get frustrated where, 2, 3 years down the road, they're still paying all these royalties, but they're not getting as much value from their franchisor. What is it that you're doing and continuing to do on an ongoing basis that's going to continue to provide that value for franchisees?
The easy answer to that is I'm a learner. I'm always learning. And how does that translate to the franchisee? What value does that provide them? Because I'm always learning and because we're a living, growing organization, we understand that, we have to continue to provide value, or we become obsolete in their mind. Is it really going to provide ongoing support? And as an example, a real life scenario of that, I was talking with a prospective franchisee today, and in a market that we already have a couple locations. And this idea that over time, we continue to add brand recognition, both on the buyer side and the seller side. Sellers, hey, we can leverage this brand. So that's the easy answer, right? As a franchise system, you're going to tap into that brand. So that's easy. You're going to get the benefit of the brand ongoing. But going back to this idea that we're always learning and applying, there's so many different ways to structure real estate transactions that here I am, have done over 500 transactions, and I'm still learning different ways to structure deals, creative ways to, buy different types of properties, whether it be a seller finance or, a subject to their mortgage type of structure, or, hybrid of that type of thing. And even different ways to structure those. You're familiar as an attorney with contracts for deeds and all these different things. And those are the type of things that the more well-rounded you become as a real estate investor, the more value you are in the marketplace. And in turn, the better you are paid, because now you offer more. There's more scenarios in which you can provide real value to somebody that's wanting to be relieved of their real estate burden, or just they inherited a burden. They have a fourplex that they got from their brother that passed away, or whatever the scenario is, and they just don't want anything to do with it. And you can step in, and because you're more well-rounded, and that's the type of ongoing education and support that you get with Joe Homebuyers. We're learners ourselves, and when we learn, we provide support and an infrastructure that allows us to disseminate the information and provide that value back to our franchisees, so that they're always learning and that they have those extra arrows in their quiver, so to speak, so that they can continue to provide those additional services in the marketplace.
Well, your timing's pretty good because, interest rates are so low. And I got to imagine, obviously COVID has had a tremendous impact on a lot of businesses, but I would imagine for your business, it's probably helped in a certain way, but it's also probably been more challenging because I don't know. And again, I don't know in this business model to the extent, there are the home inspections and so forth. I imagine that's been interfered with COVID, but
Yeah,
talk a little
sure.
bit about COVID and what that's done for your model.
Interestingly enough, Josh, I'm not sure, and this is going to sound a little bit harsh, and so I need to be careful. There's been a lot of people that have been, unfortunately impacted in an extremely negative way, and they're still suffering the consequences. But how has our business been impacted? Well, we're in the space of providing real solutions for people in a bind relative to their real estate property, and we have yet to see the influx of those type of real estate transactions. We just haven't seen it yet. So we are, interestingly enough, we're ramping up as a franchise at an interesting time in our country, in the sense, and world really, but specifically for our businesses here in the country, because there's going to be lots of people that could benefit from this type of service. The effects of people being laid off, and all the consequences of industries being shut down. And we have yet to see an influx in properties, but it's going to come, and it's inevitable. There will be effects economically that will stand to be an opportunity for a Joe Homebuyer, because it's going to affect people's living situations. So interestingly enough, we had a couple months where sellers were eerie. Everybody was eerie. It was just kind of, the world was kind of, observing. Fortunately, we still found plenty of families that could benefit from our services. But the real timing is ahead of us, where there's going to be an influx of these type of properties. And we understand that. And so we're postured well to make sure that people know that we're a viable option if they want to get out of their property or benefit from a quick sell transaction, that's what Joe Homebuyer does. And I very much think that that's ahead of us still.
Well, I'll tell you one of the impacts of COVID. I don't know if you can hear one of my daughters in the background, but I'm doing this from home. So
Sure.
if you can,
I love it. How many daughters do you have?
I've got 3 daughters, and
I'm with you. I have
despite
three as
saying I
well.
was doing a podcast, they're upstairs talking. I'm sure it's probably getting picked up. But anyway, it's just sort of funny because, everybody's kind of in this situation now. But no, that's really interesting what you shared about that. I mean, I know, like, in the real estate market right now, I mean, I know at least here, I'm in Indiana. It's like there's no inventory. I mean, that's part of the challenge is the inventory. Everything is just flying off. And, there's all these question marks with the economy and everything. But yet real estate is hopping right now.
It's wild.
It's pretty wild. Before we go, tell us, you're obviously relatively new to franchising, right? I mean, I think you guys just turned this into a franchise a year ago, about
That's right.
maybe. Okay.
November's the year. That's right.
So how's that going so far? I mean, how's it been in terms of expansion?
We feel pretty fortunate. We're up to about, by the time this airs and what we have as far as commitments, we're going to be about 15 locations,
That's
which is
great.
really, yeah, we feel super fortunate in a year to be there. We feel pretty fortunate to be working with the people that invested in Joe and feel like it was a place they could hang their hat and be a part of our organization. We're super encouraged about the growth. It lends itself to a little more time and attention to each location, each franchise partner, in the sense that, yeah, we are new. We don't have 100 or two locations, and we understand that at the same time, we're still in the early stages. We've got to prove ourselves, and that's very much the burden we've taken on and accepted, that we've got to provide real value and a lot of concierge service and support to each of our franchisees, because their success is our success. They need to find success and thrive, and so very much we've taken on that opportunity and burden, and feel like we feel blessed to be where we're at, and it's fun road, Josh. We're excited about the trajectory. We have a lot of interest right now in the opportunity.
Well, my best piece of free advice for being in franchising for, oh gosh, 15 years now. And on this podcast, I've done over 300 episodes, and I've worked in my law practice with, gosh, hundreds of people in franchising, is if you focus on providing that value, that ongoing value to the franchisees, you take care of them, you provide updated software and information and all that sort of stuff, everything else will take care of itself.
I love it.
You just focus on that, because then it's a win-win for both of you guys. So I wish you the best of luck. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing about the Joe Homebuyer franchise. And if you want to learn more about it, go to joehomebuyer.com. That's joehomebuyer.com. Any place else people can go to learn more about this franchise opportunity?
Yeah, check me out on LinkedIn. You can find me, Mark Stubler, Stubler. Would love to connect with you personally. And I just took notes of the few things you mentioned as far as the free advice. I appreciate it. I love that. That's easy for me to commit to, but I understand that if I actually do that, that's exactly what will yield the best results for our franchisees and Joe Homebuyer as a franchisor. So I love that. And
Yeah, I mean, the funniest thing about franchising is, it gets proven over and over again, is, new franchisors always worry about, sell, 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 get more franchisees, which I understand that. But the reality is in my opinion, the best way to grow your franchise is grow slow so that you can grow fast later. And oftentimes it's the people who only focus on the growth and don't focus on the continued value that they're going to add,
sure.
that they can get fast growth. Because the reality is, if a lot of people bring on brokers and other folks and get fast growth, and I get all that, but my real, I sort of measured against, we're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And if you look at most franchise systems, the ones that really took care to get it right at the beginning, to take care of their franchisees and continue to take care of the idea of, okay, after they've been in business for a while, what is it that we're going to be providing so that it's truly a win-win? I mean, those are the franchises that stand the test of time. And so,
Wow. That's right.
um, you sound like a thoughtful guy. And I think that that's, for all new franchisors, I think that rings true regardless of the industry that you're in. But it's sort of counterintuitive, because I think people feel like, they've invested a lot into a franchise system. So now they just want to grow as fast as they can. But you have to balance that against,
That's
growing
right.
at the right pace, so that it doesn't outpace your organizational structure. It doesn't outpace what you can provide for the franchisees.
Well said.
Good luck to you, my friend.
It has been, no, I love it. And I sure appreciate talking about it today. It's been the biggest challenge as a leader and as business owner that I've had, and it's the most welcome in terms of the growth that it's requiring and the journey that we're on. So it's fun to share it with you today, Josh. I appreciate your interest.
Well, check back in a year or two from now. Let's see how it's going, and we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.
All right, take care. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, thank you, Josh.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed this episode or have enjoyed the podcast in general, I would really appreciate it if you could go to iTunes and leave me a rating and review. It really helps to get this podcast out to more and more people. So the easy way to do it is go to iTunes and in the search box, put in Franchise Euphoria. You will then see my cover art, and you click on my smiling face that says Franchise Euphoria, and then click on the link that says ratings and reviews. It's that simple, but boy, oh boy, does it mean the world to me when people leave ratings and reviews. And like I said, it really helps get the show out there. Once again, would love it if you would go to iTunes and leave a rating and review if you enjoyed this episode or other episodes of the show. And until the next time, happy franchising.